Previously on this channel, we went over the massacre at Wounded Knee, a tragic military incursion in 1890 where around 300 First Nations people lost their lives, effectively ending the American Indian Wars. I feel it's important to understand the full scope of the conflict between the natives of North America and the United States government, which is why today we are going to look at the Battle of Little Bighorn, or Custer's Last Stand. One of the rare events where the United States military was humbled during this time. What led up the battle? What made Custer so brazen? What was the result? And more importantly, what legacy did it leave behind? That's what we will try to answer in today's Historical History documentary. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I post one each Friday on the Historical History channel, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date. Now let's get going. On the high plains along the Little Bighorn River, the wind moves through grass that once hid warriors and soldiers, families and horses, fear and resolve. In late June of 1876, a sprawling village of Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho stood in this valley, not as an army on campaign, but as a people together, living free of the reservation bounds the United States insisted would define their future. What happened here became a legend to some, a warning to others, and a wound that has never fully closed. Years before the battle, the Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1868 recognized Lakota control of the Black Hills, a sacred center of their world. Gold changed everything. Custer's 1874 expedition confirmed what rumors promised, and miners poured into treaty lands with Washington's tacit blessing. By late 1875, the U.S. ordered all Lakota to report to agencies or be deemed hostile. Many complied. Many others, among them Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, did not. They chose their own ground and their own time.
Sitting Bull was a spiritual leader, not a war chief, but his visions rallied people to resist. During a Sundance in 1876, he saw soldiers falling into the camp like grasshoppers, a sign, so his people believed, that a desperate fight was coming and that the people would prevail. Crazy Horse, the Oglala leader, embodied a different kind of vision. Not prophecies, but motion, surprise, and fearlessness. The art of appearing where an enemy least expects. The village that gathered near the Little Bighorn was immense. Thousands of people, perhaps 1,500 to 2,000 warriors, and a confidence born of living as they wished for one more season. The U.S. plan was to converge and compel. Columns under Terry and Gibbon moved from the east. Crook advanced from the south. Custer and the 7th Cavalry angled in from the west, but the plan frayed. On June 17th, Crazy Horse fought Crook to a standstill at the Rosebud, and Crook withdrew to regroup, news Custer never received. Believing speed would secure victory, Custer pressed toward the valley. His scouts warned him the village was huge. He worried it might scatter. He divided the regiment. Major Marcus Reno rode first into the southern end of the village. What he found was not a panicked flight, but a counterattack that exploded from the lodges. Under withering pressure, Reno's men broke into the timber, then fled the river in a rout, leaving wounded behind and dead along the water's edge. Survivors would later join Captain Frederick Benteen on a high ridge where they would dig in, thirsty and besieged, not yet knowing what was happening to their comrades to the north. While Reno's line crumbled, Custer moved along the bluffs with 5 companies, about 210 men, toward the village's far end.
His intention is still debated. Seize non-combatants as leverage, block escape, or strike a flank. Whatever he intended, what unfolded was a fight against far more warriors than he imagined.
From the Cheyenne side, Wooded Leg described how the warriors closed on the troopers. We kept creeping in closer, all around the ridge. Arrows arced high from cover, while gunfire flashed from gullies and sage, and horses, punctured by falling shafts, threw men and lines into confusion. For the soldiers with Custer, there would be no relief. A courier had carried the last clear message outward. "Benteen, come on! Big village! Be quick! Bring packs! P.S. Bring packs!" The note, scrawled by Adjutant W. Cook and delivered by trumpeter Giovanni Martini, has become part of the battle's bone-deep memory. Around the northern ridges, Lakota and Cheyenne leaders, Crazy Horse, Gall, and others, poured men around Custer's scattered companies, closing from coulees and folds of ground. As lines contracted, breakouts failed, and horses went down, the fight collapsed into pockets, brief stands that flared and went silent. Cheyenne accounts remembered a knot of soldiers pushing toward the river and being turned back, and a last surge up the high slope where markers stand today. On Reno Hill, the siege ground on. Men dug rifle pits with knives and spoons and cupped hands. Water carriers slipped to the river under fire to bring back life in coffee kettles and canteens. Veterans like Lieutenant Edward Godfrey later tried to measure those hours, the dust and heat and fear, the shouts from the village, the long wavering lines of riders that rose and fell against the skyline. When the firing ebbed and the village moved off, counting began. Two Moon remembered the silence. "We had no dance that night. We were sorrowful." At dawn, they returned to the field to tally the dead with little sticks. Hundreds of soldiers, dozens of Lakota and Cheyenne, and many wounded. The story he told refuses the triumphalist script some might expect. It is heavy with the weight of what it cost to defend a way of life. News of Custer's annihilation reached the East during the nation's centennial celebrations. The shock became myth. To many Americans, Custer was a martyr. To many Lakota and Cheyenne, Little Bighorn was a rightful defense. In Washington, the response was not reflection, but resolve. The Army pushed relentlessly that winter, burning teepees and food stores, capturing horses, and wearing down families on the move. Crazy Horse surrendered in May 1877 and was later fatally stabbed while under arrest at Fort Robinson that September. Sitting Bull fled north into Canada, beyond American reach, where hunger and politics eventually forced his return. In December 1890, during a pre-dawn arrest at Standing Rock, a gun flashed in a tense crowd. Indian police and followers exchanged fire. Sitting Bull and his son Crowfoot were among the dead. 2 weeks later, the massacre at Wounded Knee closed a bloody circle. Meanwhile, Congress used policy to seal what force had made possible. In 1877, it ratified an agreement that stripped the Sioux of the Black Hills, in violation of treaty guarantees. A century later, the Supreme Court held that the seizure was an unconstitutional taking and ordered compensation with interest. The Sioux Nation did not accept the money. For many, the Black Hills are not for sale. Memory of the battle evolved too. For generations, marble markers showed where soldiers fell. Only later were red granite markers placed for Lakota and Cheyenne warriors, and only in 1991 did Congress rename Custer Battlefield as Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument and authorize an Indian memorial dedicated on June 25, 2003. The circle widened at last
to include all who fought and died here. Archaeology shifted the story again. In the 1980s and beyond, investigators mapped shell cases, bullet paths, and horse remains, tracing movements once hidden by smoke and rumor. Their findings reinforced indigenous accounts of fluid, fast-moving fights, sudden collapses, and multiple last stands, rather than a single static tableau. The field itself became a witness.
What, then, is Little Bighorn's legacy? For the United States, it was first a humiliation, then a rallying cry used to justify campaigns that ended the military power of the Plains tribes. For the Lakota and Cheyenne, it was proof that unity, courage, and knowledge of the land could defeat even a celebrated enemy. Proof paid for with lives, and followed by years in which policy did what bullets could not. The battle was won, the future was wrested away, and yet the story refuses to end. On this ground, the graves speak many languages. The soldiers' markers say something about duty and misjudgment and the cruel speed of events. The warriors' markers speak of families defended and a world protected for one more season. The Indian Memorial's open circle invites all to listen. In that listening, the story changes again. From a single last stand to a many-voiced account of a continent, its promises and its costs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share this as it really helps the channel out. And of course, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. I'll see you next week.